Silence of the Heart, Robert Adams, Chapter 21. Some people wonder if it is good to ask questions in satsang. Some are afraid to appear stupid. If you don't understand the teaching, ask questions. On the other hand, if you came here with the right attitude, all questions will be answered from within yourself. Don't hesitate to ask questions about anything at all. Investigate the answer within. Always listen to your heart. Student, you say to us, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to take my word. But I think belief in the words and in the teacher are very important because there has to be trust to accept the validity of these teachings, the method of the teacher, as well as the general instructions he gave. Robert, I hear you. That is a good point. I am referring to those seekers who have been around from teacher to teacher, and they just accept everything the teacher tells them without investigation. The way it should be done is, if I say something, you should investigate it thoroughly within yourself to see if it has any validity. Do not just accept anything I say on blind faith, but intelligently. Look at what I say. Feel it within yourself. And if it is real, something will tell you. And you feel something, and you will feel something. You will feel love for the teacher. That will come as a result of the investigation. So I am really speaking to all the seekers who run from teacher to teacher. They believe anything they say. If the teacher tells them flying saucers landed, they just believe that without investigation. So don't just accept that on blind faith. Confirm it with yourself. Your heart will tell you if it is real or not, and you will know. Always listen to your heart. Your heart is your real self. Student, what does that mean? Listen to the heart. Robert, it means your heart is your real self, and it will never lie to you. If you tune in correctly to your heart center, your real self, it will advise you and tell you if your teacher is good or not. It will advise you and inform you of everything you need to know. Your heart is the self. It is God. Student, I am very confused with my mind and my heart. Robert, well, the mind is nothing. The mind is only a bunch of thoughts about the past and the future. That is all the mind is. But the heart is the center of stillness, of quietness, of absolute peace. When you rest your mind in your heart, you feel a joy and a bliss that overwhelms you, and you will know. Surrender your mind to your heart, and you will feel it. Student, if someone believes in the saying or the book that they feel peace or joy or happiness and have attained this or that, and that is the stuff that should not be believed or accepted because you want to experience the truth. Let me read that again. Student, if someone believes in the saying or the book that when they feel peace, joy, happiness, and have attained this or that, and that is the stuff that should not be believed or accepted because you want to experience the truth. Robert, if you are really going to your heart, it goes beyond belief. The true heart is the self. It cannot fool you. The mind will fool you. But in a true surrender of the mind into the heart center, you will actually feel a bliss and a joy that you never felt before. Student, well, that is what I mean in reference to believing the teacher explaining something. Robert, in this day and age, there are many teachers but few disciples. Most people do not want to do anything, but they want to become a teacher. The world is filled with teachers. It is up to you to use your own discernment and find out who the true teacher is. Student, isn't it true? it is really not an external teacher that really where the unfoldment happens. Robert, the true teacher is within yourself. And if you are true to yourself, your teacher from within you will lead you to the teacher without, and you will both be one, and you will know it. Student, but even beyond that, whatever I have experienced, I realize very clearly it has nothing to do with the teacher that I've already found and studied. It is always the self. It has nothing to do with, when it comes right down to it, with outside teachers. Robert, the teacher is also a catalyst for you to find yourself. Student, actually, effort can take you so far, can only take you so far. Robert, true. Student, you can't will yourself into realization. You can only go so far, and after that point, you become pulled into it. And isn't that the goal of the guru, Robert? You don't even get pulled into him. You simply awaken to yourself, and the teacher, guru, catalyst for that to happen. Student, you said that it is the happiness that will bring the good to you. That happiness is the same as abundance, health, joy, peace, harmony, that these things come to you as a result of happiness. Many masters were not very healthy. They had many physical problems. Robert, who sees these problems? They don't see them, do you? They see happiness and joy, but you see the body wasting away. Find out who they really are. Find out who you really are. You will see a completely different picture. It is when you see problems, ask who sees all the dastardly things in the universe. We see them. They don't really exist, but we see them. So we have to lift ourselves up to the place where they don't exist, where harmony exists, bliss, joy exist. So we have to lift ourselves up. Student, but they still feel the discomfort. Robert, who says so? Student, I don't know. Robert, it's all your pictures. It's all your world, the way you see it. All is well. Student, Robert, I don't know if other people have felt this or felt that, but for myself, I feel a lot of times trapped between two worlds, so to speak. And I know that is all in my mind thinking, but it feels like I am completely caught between the spiritual part of me, of life, and a more materialistic or physical sort of existence. I am caught up in my thoughts and my feelings, and I feel really trapped. I feel both of them sort of warring two parts of me. Robert, yes, you have to resolve this. When you get up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, first thing, look around, look at your environment, look at yourself, and ask the question, who am I? Keep asking yourself, who am I? And everything else will fade away. You will grow spiritually. There will be one, not two, but you will have to take the bull by the horn, so to speak. Student, I really understand what you are saying intellectually, but I guess I don't experience it. Robert, when you first get up in the morning, deny the world. Student, that is very difficult to do when I'm going out into that world. I am really in the world a lot. Robert, the world keeps changing, is never the same. Student, that is true. Robert, it is not real. Anything that changes is not real. Student, why? Robert, how can it be real if it disappears? Reality is permanent. Student, reality means non-changing. Robert, yes, that is reality. Since everything changes, it cannot be reality. So when you get up in the morning, understand this. First thing, when you open your eyes, ask yourself, who am I? Just try it and see what happens. You will see oneness. Keep asking yourself, who am I? who am I? When you first get up, after that, you will see one power, one presence. You are one. Everything will work out for you. Peace. Practice. You must remind yourself as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. You simply remember every day that I am not the body mind phenomena. I am nothing to do with this world. I is really consciousness, emotionless, nirvana, Sat Chit Ananda. I is really consciousness, emptiness, nirvana, Sat Chit Ananda. I is really Parabrahman. I am that. Just to remember, not to forget to remember. That is important. Do not think about worldly affairs. The world will take care of itself. The world is unfolding as it should. Do not think about your affairs. As far as you know, you're under the law of karma, and the Lord of karma, Ishvara, will take care of everything. So do not even think about those things. Do not think, in other words, of the world of manifestations. And do not think about the body and its problems, but rather inquire, to whom does this body come? To come does the mind that keeps thinking and thinking and thinking. Who possesses it? I do. But my real I is absolute reality. Therefore, the I that appears to have a body and its problems, and the I that appears to perceive the world and the universe must be a false I. Yet, where did it originate? What gave it birth? When you can think of the power source, the spiritual heart on the right side of your chest, if you desire, you may see a picture of your deity that you respect in the center of the ball of light on the right side of your chest, whether it is Buddha or Moses or Jesus or whomever. And you watch the I as it comes out of that center and goes up into the brain. And then all of a sudden you identify with your body and the world comes into being. And the mind appears to sustain it all. That is when you catch yourself. You reverse the process. You watch the I returning from the brain. You abide in the I. You hold on to the I. You follow the I thread. You trace the I as it returns to the spiritual heart center and it disappears. Then you keep silent and you just keep totally silent. If thoughts do appear, you inquire, to whom do they come? And you keep silent again. As you practice this every day, week after week, month after month, year after year, something will give. Something has to give, and you'll become free in the silence. Student, Robert, yesterday my wife and I went to the shopping center and had some ice cream, and she asked me if I enjoyed it, and I said, yeah. But at the same time of enjoying it, there was no I. Afterwards came the thought, I am enjoying it. And I got home, I asked myself, to whom does this come? But when I looked at it, while I was experiencing it, there was no I experiencing it. There was just experiencing. Afterward came the thought, I am experiencing it. At the time of experiencing it, there was no I experiencing it. Robert, who was eating the ice cream? Student, there was no I at the time. There was just enjoyment. Robert, who was the enjoyer? Student, I don't know. There was just enjoyment. There does not seem to be an enjoyer either. Robert, that's good. True, you're right. There is no one there to enjoy anything. There is just enjoyment. When you think you're enjoying it, you are spoiling it all. Because if you are enjoying something, the ice cream will be finished and you will be upset. There is no ice cream left. But if you keep yourself out of the way and there is only enjoyment without a person or a thing being enjoyed, then you can eat ice cream, do anything you like, and you will always be free and happy. Student, Robert, is there anything you could say for when a person who has a temporary loss of identification with their body and mind, and during those hours that the person has the sense of being, just being, is there anything that can be done during those hours to help prevent the awareness or focus slipping back into the body and the mind? Robert, What is going to happen will happen of its own accord. When you have periods of samadhi, that is good. All you have to do is keep on going and doing what you're doing, and it will intensify all by itself when you are ready. There is something within you that knows exactly when it is going to happen. Everything is preordained. But your job appears to be to dive deeper into the self. When you feel something coming out of its poise, the question, who is coming out of it? Who went in? The person who went in does not exist any longer. He or she has transcended. So, who is coming out of it and in what form? Ask the question to yourself, and you will find that you stay in it longer and longer. But everything is right. There are no mistakes. So, when you do not come out of it, do not believe there is something wrong or you have to got to stay longer. After all, that is the ego that says that. But simply watch yourself, observe, look, be, and everything will take care of itself. The worst thing you can do is analyze. Do not analyze what happens. Just watch, observe. The ego is the great analyzer. It wants to analyze everything. It wants to know. When there is no one left to know, then you will be that all the time. After all, who knows? The shadow knows. Remember the movie? Laughter. Student, yes. Robert, that's right. The student, we are all from the same generation. I have a question. I have been reading a lot about a few people in Ramana's time. Just by a look or even a hug, there's a story of Amananali. Ramana ran over to Ananamali, hugged him for 2 minutes, and he became spontaneously enlightened. And then he spent the next 38 years stabilizing into that. And then certain other cases. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about transmission. Robert, yes. Remember that Namali Swami was not an ordinary person. He was extraordinary because he had been in the teachings for many years. He had prepared himself and he was very humble, filled with humility. Student, he was just a boy when it happened. Yes, he had a joy in his heart and looked at Ramana as the divine universe. Ramana was the whole universe to him, so he had something inside of him. And when Ramana hugged him and loved him that way, that was left, what was left dropped away and he became enlightened. So this is true of us too. We are not different from an anomaly, except that with us we have such things in our heads that keep us back from being ourselves, and we are filled with our own garbage. And when this happens, we have a long way to go. So we must first develop humility. We have to develop love and peace. If we stop thinking so much about person, place, or thing, the sage will give you a hug or whatever will happen to you, depending on the person, depending on what is going on, depending on the circumstances. There are no mistakes. Everything is in the right place. Student. So, Robert, the transmission is radiating all the time. It is not that Ramana just all of a sudden turned on the juice to the one person. Robert, exactly. Student, and it is just that the person has to be receptive and open so the transmission can be received. Robert, indeed, very true. Grace is always like that. There's never a time when grace is not. It is up to you to receive it the right way by preparing yourself. And the best way you can prepare yourself is to keep the mind still and silent. Student, how can a seeker maximize his serious relationship with a sage? What can he do to make the relationship deeper? Robert, simply by sitting with the Nani all day long. When you are home, where are you working? Think of the sage. When you think of the sage's form, the sage's name, things will begin to happen to you. Find peace. Try it when you will be with the sage continuously. Then you will be with the sage continuously. Whenever you think of the sage becomes part of your heart. It is the complete heart. And you feel the love of the sage within you. So if you think of the sage will think of you. Whatever you think about, that you become ultimately. So you have to be very careful what you think about. Whatever you think about, you become. Think of the sage, you become the sage. Student Robert, in talking with some satsang people, some of them say, I cannot do much self inquiry. Or some of them also say, I don't care much for self inquiry. Or what I want to do is go and sit with Robert. Would you comment on that? Robert, well, what can I say? Actually, our being together at satsang is the entire teaching. The words are merely a pointer to be able to sit in silence together and find peace. So what you are saying is true. Just being together does the trick. Robert, the trick is to wake up. I call it a trick because most people do not realize that all they have to do is keep quiet, keep silent, and then they will be awake. So I trick them into making a speech instead of telling them, just sit with me and all will be revealed. Thereby, hearing the words, people believe they have found something out, but the words are to make you sit quietly and behave yourself. Student Robert, are you saying that it is the grace that flows from the silence that transforms us? Robert, oh yes, true. Grace is already there. You simply have to be quiet enough to pick it up. When your mind is noisy, you pick up the vibration of the world, just like a pool of water. When the water is still, it reflects the moon and the stars, but then the water is noisy. It cannot do that at all. It reflects nothing. So when your mind is noisy, it reflects chaos, confusion. When your mind is still and quiet, it reflects divinity. Student, Robert, this week you said that the mind has to be destroyed, and in the past you said there is no mind. The mind does not exist. So how can you destroy something that doesn't exist? Robert, the one who believes he has a mind, he has to destroy the mind. There is nothing to destroy. So it is a question of the person who is seeking where they are at with their own mind. There is no mind. No mind never existed. But because people have a strong belief, they have a mind, just like there is a body. As long as you think there is a strong mind and a strong body, you have to do things to make it become less and less. Destroy the mind and the body. We have to sit around talking like this many times. Depending on who I am talking to and depending on who is asking the question, certain people will have to do everything they can to obliterate the mind. Other people want to be still for a while and the mind disappears by itself. Everything is different, but everybody has a state of mind. Obliterate the mind completely and become liberated. This is everyone's gift. You don't have to stay where you are. You can become liberated. It is a gift to become liberated. But will you do it? I mean, you have to want liberation more than anything else in the world. So think of the things you are attached to that come before liberation. That is what I'm talking about. You have to let everything go. Let go of all your attachments and liberation will come by itself. Student, I have been studying metaphysics most of my life, and I have never been able to get an edge on my suffering. And then after I have been listening to you, there's been a progressing thing happening. At first, I was unable to identify with the problems of the world, which was just a tremendous relief to me. And then about a month ago, all of a sudden, I was able to not identify anymore with the thoughts, the problems with this person. And I found a place where I could be more peaceful and watch this person's thoughts happening And that is the most freedom I have ever had in my whole life and the most peace. I am very grateful to you. Robert, that is wonderful. You are getting rid of the self. You are doing what you are supposed to do. You are making progress. That is wonderful. Keep it up. Student, I wonder if you could say something about creativity. You said something about the creative life, and it is hard to reconcile dropping the mind and using the mind creatively. Creatively. Robert, not really. Some of the most famous sculptors, famous artists did their best work when they were not thinking. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He used to sit in his rocking chair every day and lose his mind completely, not thinking at all. And all the ideas came to him because it comes out of the self. The self of consciousness is all prevalent, but you give it back because you are thinking too much. Once the mind stops thinking, consciousness, the self, appears by itself as your creativity, and you become very creative. So do not believe your mind will not be creative. It is not true. You become more creative. Your mind keeps you limited. When your mind is gone, you become more expansive. In any event, what you came to this earth to do in the body, you are going to do, to fulfill. It is all preordained, all predestined. It has absolutely nothing to do with you or what you think about. You don't have to think about it. Your job is to make yourself more peaceful and still and let nature take its course. Then you will find that you are totally happy and peaceful more than you have ever been in your life. Student, are the mind and the ego two separate entities, or when you say mind, do you mean ego? When you say ego, do you mean mind? Robert, they are both synonymous. They are both the same. Yes, in order for us to talk about these things, we have to talk about the body and the mind and the self and the ego. There's only one. The one is you. The one is the self. Student, would hypnosis be useful as a means of breaking this hypnosis? Robert, no, because hypnosis simply contacts the subconscious. It reinforces your ego. You are already hypnotized, so you don't want to be double hypnotized, because when you have to get rid of the hypnosis trance as well as the waking trance. Student, that is how it appears that it should be. Robert, that is how it appears that it should be. How is that? Student, that is actually breaking the trance. Hypnosis can't break the trance. Only you can, by admitting and realizing that there never was a trance, that you are already free and liberated now. Student, Robert, scientists and psychologists and other people, they always try to unlock the limitations of the brain. We used to only say that we only use 10% of our brain. If we somehow get to the point of using 100% of the brain, would that get us more immersed? Robert, more immersed in the ego? Student, yes, it is fortunate that we only use 10% of our brain, right? Robert, yeah, you're right. Because after all, what is the brain? It is an extension of the body. And the more you use the brain, the more you lose, you become lost in Maya. So you don't want to expand the brain. You want to transcend the brain. Student, Robert, you say you are not the body, but every week I see you and your body looks different to me. Some weeks you look very young and some weeks you look very, very old. Yet I have read in the books that jnanis have spontaneous transformation where they would get super rejuvenated, like they were ready to die, and then all of a sudden they would look 30 years younger, have many years to live. Robert, that's what you see. Student, But when the person is enlightened and one with the force, his consciousness, would that have the effect on his appearance or her appearance in the body? Robert, only on your appearance. What you see is what you see. The jnani has no appearance whatsoever. The jnani is completely empty. Student, you mean you are the invisible man? Robert, you see an invisible man. If you see the invisible man, then that's what I am. What you see is what I am. Student, sometimes you appear to have no head. Robert, then I have no head. Student, it's like the headless horseman. Robert, whatever you see is what you get. You get what you see. Student, Robert, when you see someone that you love very much going down a very destructive path, how can you become detached to that? Robert, you realize that this person does not belong to you. He or she belongs to God. Therefore, if you have the right wisdom, you will do something to try to help that person. But then again, karmically, that person has been given to you for you to go through this experience. So the correct answer for this, of course, is to know yourself. If you know yourself, it will take care of the greater help the person will receive, for it is only one, and you are that. But when you separate yourself by saying this person is doing this, and I'm trying to stop this person, there is duality, and things will get progressively worse. But if you know who you are, then that what will happen to this person is what is supposed to happen. Now, that is hard. Sometimes you want to grab the person and shake them, and you want to interfere and do something for them. Yet, if you could only remember that everything is in its right place and see who we are, and everything will take care of itself. We have never done things like this before. We have always taken action, and sometimes the action seems to work, for we have halted a certain situation that appears to be terrible, going in terrible directions, and we have put a stop to it. It is only temporary. Whatever a person has to go through, they will go through one way or another. The only relief is to awaken. Consequently, when you awaken, you will see things differently, and this is how you help a person. Student, Robert, the cause of a person to display self righteous anger to defend another person or a cause, can you explain it? Robert, it's all ego. What else? Only the ego is self righteous. Only the ego goes for causes. But if you understand what I'm talking about today, if you understand slightly how this universe works, you will see that going for causes is not the solution. It appears to be a solution, but it is only temporary. Go back in retrospect and see how many justifiable causes have been in this world since the beginning of time. There have always been causes, righteous causes, causes for peace and justice. Has the world become any better? Take a look at this world. And yet the people who are fighting for these causes are necessary. This is their dharma to do what they are doing, I suppose. For the people who come to the meeting like this, though, you have been in this type of teaching for many incarnations. This is why you are able to comprehend something of what I am talking about. The average person in the street has no interest in anything like this. The average activist has nothing to do with things like this. They will have no interest. But you are here. Therefore, there is something in your heart that wants to unfold and become self realized and free. Student, if I think it enables us to sit in silence before going to work in the morning, should I actually seek to transfer closer to home? Or should I just work on who I am and trust the right action will take place and my job will be where it's supposed to be, and I should just meekly go where I'm told? Robert, we don't want to be meek and we don't want to be self righteous. We want to be the self, period. Therefore, if you can slow down your mind by allowing it to rest in the self to an extent, by removing thoughts, feelings, emotions, attitudes, and going to the higher plateau of inquiry, who am I? To whom do these things come? Then you will be safe. But if you see that you cannot do this, if you're afraid you'll get fired from your job, you won't have any money, or you'll go to the poorhouse, you'll become a homeless person, then by all means, you have to do what you have to do. So you have two choices: either discover who you are, what your true nature is, by understanding that there is a power that takes care of you, the power that knows the way, that will always love you and put you in the right place, or you go where you have to go and do what you have to do. The choice is yours. There is not one answer or one choice to this. It depends on the person, where they are, where you are at. If I took on a person from the street and told her everything will go well with you, don't worry, you don't have to beg, you don't have to steal, that person may starve to death. For the person's karma is to maybe steal and beg. And we have no right to tell a person how to live. But if the person was able to see the light, so to speak, where the truth is, that they are not the doer, they are not the body, they are not the mind, then they will be lifted up from where they are into a higher state of consciousness and will be taken care of. So, you know where you are by the type of thoughts that come into your head, by the type of feelings and emotions that come to you, by how you feel every day. Take the next right action. There is something within you that knows what to do. There is a power greater than you that knows how to take care of you without your help. All you have to do is surrender to it. Surrender your thoughts, your mind, your ego to the current that knows the way. It will take care of you. It will take better care of you than you ever imagined. Most people are under the mistaken impression that their thoughts stop. They will be a vegetable. On the contrary, you will become spontaneous. You will think just enough to take care of the moment, and everything will take care of you. Try it. We always think we're very important, and we have to think. Only remember the cliche, I think, therefore I am. It should be, I am, therefore I don't have to think. Laughter. Student, when you come in contact with a homeless person that you mentioned before, perhaps a natural disaster or difficulties that people are going through in different parts of the world or right in front of you, what arouses in you in your state? Does compassion arouse in you, or is it arbitrary to you, meaningless to you? Other people's suffering? How do you relate to other people's suffering? Robert, both are correct. I have great compassion, even though it is meaningless. So I get in there and I try to help. I will give $10 to a homeless person. I will help people in the city. If I am there, I will be a part of it. But realize it is meaningless. I am not the doer, which appears as a body, and I do what needs to be done. But there is not a thought behind it. I do not consider I am doing something special here, or I am doing something bad by not helping. I am doing something good by helping. I am helping someone. In reality, no one is doing anything. Student, what is the so-called blue pearl or the sesame seed? Robert, you mean what? Specific reference to what? Uh, I heard other swamis say it or whatever. Robert, the blue pearl is a point in consciousness. Ramana Maharishi used to use the right side of the heart. It is the right side of the chest where the heart is, which is consciousness. That's where it resides. So the blue pearl is the same thing. The blue pearl, the white pearl, the gray pearl, the right heart, it is all the same. It's just a point of reference. It has no real significance. It is a place where you concentrate for the beginner. A beginner student needs to concentrate on a point in the body to become one pointed so they can stop thinking. So they concentrate on the imaginary blue pearl, or in the heart, or on the right side of the chest, or between their eyebrows, or on their navel. And that just makes you one pointed. When you are one pointed, you can give up all that and stop thinking altogether. Then you become totally free. Catch yourself. What are you thinking about? It is those very thoughts that keep you from awakening. Always catch yourself thinking and ask yourself, to whom does these thoughts come? Even if they are good thoughts, it makes no difference. Student Robert, if you see a dream, and a lot of spiritual conditions and religions say that you learn by your dreams, that your dreams guide you, what about this? Robert, there are three states of consciousness, so to speak: the waking, sleeping, and dreaming. The deep dream sleep, the deep sleep is when you are self-realized. There are no thoughts. You are unconscious of any fact. The dream state is like this: when you are dreaming, you are simply in another state of consciousness that appears very real to you, and it is real as long as you are dreaming. And when you awaken from the dream, you are in a state of consciousness, which is also a dream. Therefore, what you want to do is remove all the dreaming completely and totally and become absolutely free. So when you wake up in the morning and you remember your dream, ask yourself, who dreamed? And you'll say, I dreamed. Then you will realize the dream is part of the I again. So inquire, who am I? Or where did this I come from? And follow the I thread to the source by repeating again and again to yourself, I am I. Who am I? What does this really mean? What is the source of the I that I was in these dreams? And one day that I will go back into the heart center, which is consciousness itself, and you'll be free of all dreams. But your dreams should not be taken too seriously. It is like that in life. You're dreaming right now that you are a mortal being. You go through many experiences. You have fears. You have happiness. You have all sorts of emotions. And if I tell you that you are not, if I tell you that you are dreaming this, you won't even believe me. You tell me, Robert, how can I be dreaming? I'm living it. And I tell you, no, you're dreaming. If you listen to me, you will do what you have to do to get out of the dream by inquiring, who am I? Where did I come from? So when you are having a dream at night, it is the same thing. It's merely another dream, but you awaken faster. And then you're in this dream. So stop dreaming completely and awaken and be free. Student, is there any difference for visions and dreams? Robert, oh no, a dream is like this. The only difference is it's longer. It seems to last longer, but otherwise it's all a mortal dream. When you're dreaming, that's your world for a time. You're not conscious, though you are asleep. You're not conscious that you're asleep or of the waking world, but you believe the dream is the waking world. When you wake up, it changes, and this becomes the waking world. But there is no real difference. They're both the same. Student, and visions are part of the dream? Robert, visions are all part of the imagination. They are part of the dream. They are a little higher than the dream, but then they are in the dream category. Therefore, because after all, who is having the vision? The real self does not need visions. So vision is a manifestation of the mind. Yet as long as you are in the body, you will have dreams and visions. But when you are really awake, you will be the witness to your visions and to dreams and also to the world. Student, Robert, When the four principles came to you, was it a dream or a vision, or how do you distinguish the two? Robert, well, I don't really know, to tell you the truth. I'm usually aware of what's going on, so all the time I was aware of the vision, dreamlike, taking place. Student, including this time? Robert, yes, I realized I was doing all these things. It was like I was watching everything taking place, but there was never a time when I actually became the dream or the vision. Student, or felt totally caught up in it while you were observing? Robert, right. I was always observing, but it was like I was omnipresent, omnipotent observer. Student, could you tell us again? Remember a long time ago you talked about a vision that you frequently had in which you would encounter these entities? Robert, oh yes. I haven't had that vision in a long time. I had a vision that I was flying through the air and I went to Arunachala, the mountain, and I went through the mountain into a hollowness inside. And when I landed in the middle of the mountain, there was Buddha, Krishna, Ramana, Nisargadatta, and many others that I didn't recognize. And we all formed a circle. We smiled at each other and we walked toward each other until we became one blazing light. And the light turned into a ligum. And then I opened my eyes, but I was aware that I was having a vision. That's it. Student, and that came to you many nights, right? Robert, yeah, it used to, but it's stopped now. Student, do you do self inquiry with that? Robert, no, I never done self inquiry. Student, why do you recommend it then? Robert, because it's the way to go. Student, you're a card. Robert says, I'm the whole deck. Student, why do you say that you've never done it? Robert, why do I need to do it? Student, well, if you studied with the people from the East, my understanding is that that's what they teach. Robert, I did not go to them for a teaching. I went to confirm my own experience. Student, but you said you went to Parahamsa. Robert, sure, because I was a kid. I had many experiences that I was 14 years old, and I didn't understand what was going on. So Parahamsa Yogananda explained it to me. And he sent me to India to see Ramana, who explained it further. Student, Ramana didn't suggest that you do self-inquiry? Robert, no. Student, who am I? Robert, never did it. Student, you didn't need it? You were already? Robert, whatever. Student, how did Ramana confirm your intuitive experience? Robert, with a smile, and most of the things we talked about were mundane. Student, he just knew that you knew and he smiled? Robert, I have no idea what he knew. Student, how did you receive his smile? Robert, I smiled back. Then for the rest of the time, he inquired about my needs, and he wanted me to tell him about New York. Student, what did you tell him about New York? Robert, I said, New York, what a wonderful town. It's a wonderful town. Laughter. Student, Robert, is it just insight that you can understand how direct and how powerful inquiry is? Is it just wisdom? Robert, I may joke about it, but it does work. Student, so it's through some kind of inner wisdom that you know? Robert, definitely. Student, so once again, self-inquiry is you could breathe in by saying, who am I? And exhale by saying, Robert, no, that's not self-inquiry. Self-inquiry, when you inquire, who am I? Student, and take it to the source. Robert, the source is existence. The source is the I. Student, last Thursday, you had us go through an exercise with you. Thursday, you had us go through an exercise which you have us do periodically. Robert, yes, breathing in I and saying I am. Student, I remember the one she was talking about. You used to also teach where you would say, "Who am I?" on the inhale. Robert, oh yes, when you inhale, you can say, "Who am I?" But exhale, "I am consciousness." And then you exhale, "I am not the body," also. Student, I thought you were not supposed to answer the question, just leave it silent and open. Robert, that is the other I am meditation. Student, so the question, who am I? Is that self inquiry? Yes. Student, that experience, God knows what it's like, but conceptually it seems like it would be self authenticated. Robert, it is self authenticated. But I was a kid, so I felt all these things. And I thought I was going crazy, so I went to find out what was going on. Student, even when you are not a kid, you want to understand. Student, even when you're not a kid, you want to understand. Robert, if you're already grown up, you can read the books and you can do other things. But in my day, there were no teachers except for Joel Goldsmith and Parahamsa Yogananda and people like that. Student, was the bliss of the self part of the experience, even though you thought you were going crazy? Robert, oh yes, of course. By going crazy, I mean I no longer conformed to my environment. I didn't care about school. I didn't care about my parents. I was just radiantly happy being by myself. I stopped associating with certain friends. Student, why would you need that confirmed? That's self-sufficient. Robert, it's self-sufficient, but I didn't know what it was. Student, why do you have it now? What Student, what do you have to know? Does it require some idea about it? Robert, because I was still in body consciousness and the body got to know. Inquiring minds have to know. Student, so what you were looking for was a frame of reference, more or less. Robert, yes, because there was no one close by that I could talk to. And if I did, and, and if I did what Ramana did, they would have to put me in a psychiatric ward. Student, did Parahamsa Yogananda send you directly to Ramana? Robert, he suggested that I go to him. Student, had you heard of him before? Robert, yes, I wanted to become a monk in the Self-Realization Fellowship. Yogananda discouraged me. Student, why did Yogananda discourage you? Robert, he told me that is not my path. It's interesting. Whenever I speak of my experiences, people want me to be eaten by snakes, spiders to bite me. They want me to waste away. They think that I am a great soul. Student, you just haven't suffered enough. Is that true? People really think? Robert, because they read the books on certain saints and they think that certain saints have gone through such certain experiences. So everybody has to go through those experiences. That's why I don't talk about myself too much. The truth is, of course, if you really want to know about this body and about the self in me, know yourself. Find out first who you are. Then you will know all about me. Otherwise, you will see me as you see yourself. Do you see what I'm saying? If you meet a con man, the con man is going to look at you and think you are a con man too. A con man believes everybody is a con man. If you meet a person that is filled with love, they will see you as love also. So this is why I say to you, I am a mirror for you, and you are only seeing yourself. Student, that is for everyone though, not just for you. Robert, for everything, of course. Student, so what you are saying is you create your own reality, or we create our own reality. Robert, where you are right now, the world that you are seeing is the world that you are creating. Student, but how does that tie in with everything being ordained or predestined. Robert, everything is predestined. So you are predestined to create the reality as it is. Robert, that is the way it goes. It seems very paradoxical. Of course it does. It would not be truth if it weren't paradoxical. Everything is preordained. If you go to work on yourself, you lift yourself up and you become free. Student, there's nothing you can do about it, and yet you have to try to do something about it. Robert, exactly. Student, why is that? Robert, that is the game. And if you try to figure it out, you can't. So don't even try. Student, and that means that when you become realized, everything that is preordained doesn't exist anymore, right? Robert, right. When one becomes realized, the game is over. There's nobody to become realized. There's nobody that's not realized. There's no universe. There's no God. There are no others, and all is well. Student, or nothing is well, as the case may be. Robert, touche. Student, Robert, it seems like it's a gradual realization. Robert, it appears to some to be gradual, but when you awaken, there never was any gradually. It appears like that sometimes. When you awaken, you know that you've always been awake. There never was a time that you were asleep. Student, it's interesting how the Buddhists concentrate on being totally present, even more present than here and now. It seems like that's the same state, because when you are totally present, there is no world apart from yourself, and there's no time, and there's no past, and there's no future. Robert, if you live in the split second of a moment, nothing exists. But as soon as you begin to think, that existence comes into play. But it happens so fast, it's hard to catch. Student, is it accurate to say that the experiences exemplified by some of the Zen masters is the same as Ramana? The same that Ramana speaks of? Robert, there are just different ways of saying it. The Buddhists become enlightened also. Because of karma and samskaras, we are inclined towards a certain path. It may be Buddhism, it may be mystic Christianity, it may be Advaita Vedanta. We're inclined toward a path from past lives. Student, is there a period of assimilation after enlightenment where the understanding deepens and changes? Robert, there is no deepening involved. You're either awake or not. There is an appearance, however, that you become more peaceful, and all the things that used to disturb you seem to dissipate. Student, so there is a process as realization occurs? Robert, it is not really a process of realization. It is a process of becoming a better person. Awakening comes by itself and has nothing to do with that. The appearance of improvement happens also, but has nothing to do with the realization. Student, so you become a better person after realization? Robert, no, not after. After realization, there is no body left to be a better person. The better person comes before. On the other hand, there have been thieves, murderers who suddenly have some reason have become self-realized. It depends on the person. Again, you are either awake or asleep. There is no in between. Once you wake up, you realize you have always been awake. There has never been a time when you were not. Become that awakening, though. Before that awakening, though, you have to go through all kinds of experiences of thought and practices sometimes. It depends on the maturity of the person. Student, if the person is immature, they have a realization of the self. Is the immaturity healed by that realization? Robert, if a person awakens, there's no question of immaturity. There is no one left to be mature or immature. You are just awake. All that we are talking about goes on before awakening. Student, what about the sinners who have an awakening? What happens to all the karma they generated? Robert, they are completely burned up. They never existed. Student, can you walk over here and wake me up? Robert, as far as I'm concerned, you are already awake. You have to be able to see it yourself. Robert, it is very rare, but it is possible. Sorry, student, can someone awaken another by touching them? Robert, it is very, very rare, but it is possible. It usually happens to a person who has been on a spiritual path for many lives. Then through a touch or a glance, they go all the way and they break through Maya and they become free. If you are asking whether I can do that, there is no I left to do anything. If I were to do that, there would be a me and a you, but there is no me and there is no you. There is only the ultimate oneness. There is oneself. There is not one left to do anything to anyone else. The doing is part of the dream. When awakening comes, there is only one. There is no doer. Yogis do things like touching, but not jnanis. Many awakened people around Ramana Maharshi claim that when he looked at them or accidentally touched them, it caused an awakening process. He denied everything. It depends on the maturity of the individual. Anything is possible. Student, why emphasize freedom so much? Robert, we are not. Freedom is just a word to express that you are not what you appear to be. You are not bound by anything. There is no bondage. There is no limitation. You are not bound to the earth or to your body. Student, you nullify everything that is, and what is can be beautiful. Robert, anything that is beautiful in this world is temporary. Student, what's wrong with that? Robert, what is wrong is that you are living the mortal dream. Whatever is temporary must come to an end. Then you will experience the other side, unhappiness and sorrow. You experience everything as a mortal being. But who wants to go through life experiencing good and bad, ups and downs? Then you die, and then you repeat everything all over again. You want to get off the wheel and become everlasting joy, pure awareness. You want to go beyond what happens and what appears to be. Remember, it is your mortal self that sees good and bad in this world. Surely you want to go beyond this into eternity. If you don't want to, stay where you are. This is why I say everyone is in the right place and there are no mistakes. Learn to keep life simple. Do not become bogged down in this world of effects. The simpler your life is, the better. Practice loving kindness and show peace to all. Do not be swayed by the TV or any media. Just be yourself. Make your life simple and peaceful. Do not listen to rumors and do not become involved in any deep philosophy. Be gentle, humble, and strong. The world may appear hard at times, but don't let it fool you. It has no power over you at all. The reason it appears hard at times is because you allow it to be hard at times. It's just how you see it, how you perceive it. It's all a perception. Just look at the world and laugh, and it'll all go away. Always realize you are divinely protected, divinely guided to your highest good. You have nothing to fight and nothing to fear. All is well.